Well, this is absolutely ridiculous. Apparently, the government, the US government, is threatened by El Salvador using Bitcoin. My name is Joe Brown. This is the Heresy Financial Show, and a bill was just proposed in Congress that, if passed, will seek to collect data and assess the threat to the US financial system and to the dollar because of El Salvador using Bitcoin. Now, obviously, you've been around long enough to know that the US government really doesn't see that specifically as a threat, that this could lay the foundation. It could be setting precedence for something larger down the road. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. Ready? Let's dive in. Today's sponsor is Masterworks, but more on that later. All right, so the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, I'm sorry if I pronounced his name wrong, said, "Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that the U.S. government would be afraid of what we are doing here." He said this on Twitter. And if we look, he did a couple screenshots of this bill that was just recently proposed here. So we're going to actually take a look at the bill itself. I'm going to go ahead and link this bill in the description below. Now, this is brand new here. I just did, a couple days ago, I just did a video on gold, a bill that was that would seek to make somebody a felon if they've done business with any foreigner who had done any business with Russian gold. And again, you know, that could turn anybody into a felon. So the goal of that is not to stop Russian gold from being used. The goal is much larger and broader. Now, but the thing that's funny about that is the acronym. It was the Russia Gold Act. It was government and oligarchs from limiting democracy. So Congress, for whatever reason, one of the greatest skills that they have is coming up with these stupid acronyms. We've got another one here, the ACES Act, the Accountability for Cryptocurrency in El Salvador Act. Just absolutely preposterous. So really what this is looking at is it's kind of ridiculous that the United States of America is afraid of the threats that little old El Salvador poses to the United States financial system and the strength of the dollar as a result of this. And so we're going to look at a couple details here that I noticed when reading through this bill the first time that was this recently proposed bill. Number one, they're looking for a description of the process followed by the government of El Salvador that they use to develop and enact Bitcoin law, which provides the cryptocurrency Bitcoin with legal tender status in El Salvador. So they want to report on what is the legal process. All right, fine. Next, they're looking at what is the regulatory framework with respect to the adoption of cryptocurrency as legal tender, the technical capacity of El Salvador to mitigate the financial integrity and cybersecurity risks. Okay, again, this is the United States government has zero interest in the regulatory framework here. It does not matter at all to the United States what processes El Salvador has taken in order to mitigate the financial integrity and cybersecurity risks associated with Bitcoin transactions. Doesn't matter. First of all, Bitcoin is a public ledger. That means that any single transaction that has ever been made with Bitcoin since its existence began is recorded for all public eyes to see for eternity. It's a public ledger. That's what a blockchain is. And so when you are making this argument that cryptocurrency is used for crime and we have to crack down on it, that's preposterous. The US dollar, $100 bills are untraceable. They are pieces of paper. They leave no ledger. They leave no record. They have no digital identity associated with them. And they are used in crimes because they're untraceable. You just take physical dollars and you can buy and sell anything around the world that you want with them. Now, Bitcoin is the complete opposite. And that's why people who use Bitcoin for crimes are getting caught left and right. And it makes the news all the time because it's a public ledger. If you're still using Bitcoin for crime, you're just an idiot. Everybody's getting caught these days because the FBI and the feds are very good now at tracking IP addresses and seeing, okay, which wallet is associated with which person. And yes, it's pseudonymous, which means the wallet doesn't have your name or your social security attached to it. But if somebody really wants to find out who owns the wallets and where that money came from and went to, they're going to be able to find out. It's not anonymous, it's pseudonymous. So this is just preposterous. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Masterworks. Today, there is a storm of uncertainty with stocks, real estate, crypto, and investors are uncertain about what to invest in. And the truth is, when we have market volatility and pullbacks, those are opportunities to reevaluate how diversified you truly are. Now, I've talked about Ray Dalio in the past, but he has a great breakdown on what true diversification is. And if you're really diversified, it means that your assets are uncorrelated. That means that they don't move up and down with each other at the same time. If you've got 100 assets that move up and down all together, you don't actually have 100 different positions. You've got one. There's no diversification there. And contemporary art is one of these uncorrelated assets compared to things like stocks, bonds, real estate, and crypto. In fact, contemporary art is actually one of the oldest assets around. Not only has it been around a long time, but its performance has outpaced the S&P 500 by 174% from the year 95 to 2020. Not only that, but it outperformed gold, US housing, and global equities as well, all while having a very low correlation to those markets. This could be one of the reasons why 2/3 of billionaires allocate between 10 and 30% of their portfolio to art. Now, the problem that the average retail investor has faced for decades, if not hundreds of years, is that there's just not enough money in their portfolio to buy a Picasso or a Van Gogh or a good quality piece of art with only 10, 20, 30% of their own portfolio. This is where Masterworks is changing the game. They're the first startup to securitize paintings with the SEC. This allows people to buy shares, fractional ownership of iconic pieces of art by artists like Banksy, Andy Warhol, Keith Haring, and many more, much like you're buying shares of stocks in stock market. Masterworks then will hold on to the art for 3 to 7 years and then sell at auction. Or you have the option to sell your shares on their secondary market to other users. And results so far indicate they know what they're doing. They've sold 3 paintings so far, and early adopters who invested in their Banksy painting saw a 32% net return on their investment after just 1 year. To get set up with Masterworks takes just a few clicks. You visit their website, create an account, browse their artwork, and you can instantly diversify your portfolio with one of the oldest and most stable assets around. And if you'd like to gain priority access and skip the wait list to invest in fine art, use my link in the description below. At the very least, you learn something new, and at best, you diversify your portfolio. Next, they're looking at a financial action task force with respect to virtual transactions, the impact on individuals and businesses of requiring tender in Bitcoin, and the impact of such adoption of a cryptocurrency on the macroeconomic stability and the public finances of El Salvador, including taxation, the rule of law, democratic governance in El Salvador, the unbanked population in El Salvador, the flow of remittances from the United States to El Salvador's relations with multilateral financial institutions such as the IMF and the World Bank. There's a typo there. Absolutely preposterous that there's a typo there. And bilateral and international efforts to combat transnational illicit activities. Again, all of these things, the United States government has no interest in any of these things. These are at best a Trojan horse for setting precedents for something else, something bigger later on. Now, next here, we're going to look at something that is the United States government probably does care about a little bit here. El Salvador's bilateral economic and commercial relationship with the U.S., and here's the big one here. The potential for reduced use by El Salvador of the United States dollar. Now, we have to remember here that the United States dollar is also legal tender in El Salvador. That is not true everywhere. Many places around the world use the dollar, especially for international trade. It's the global reserve currency, but there are not that many countries that the dollar is actually their legal tender. We're going to look here at globalexchange.hk. We're going to take a look. There are probably other lists, but this was just the first one I found. These are the only countries that use the US dollar as legal tender. Obviously the US, Ecuador, El Salvador, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Palau, East Timor, Zimbabwe. Of those countries, which one is the only economy that matters globally and to the United States government's interest? The United States. The United States couldn't care less about any of these small countries, Ecuador, El Salvador, Micronesia, any of these. The only thing they care about is the people in the US who have to use the US dollar. And that's what I think this is getting at here. They're looking at this as a case study, as an experiment to say, hey, This country is a country that has the US dollar as legal tender, and now they're switching over to the usage of Bitcoin. We want to see, are people loving this? Are they hating this? What kind of crimes happen as a result that we can point to and say, hey, we need to stop Bitcoin usage here in the United States because it points to all these crimes. They want to look at any negative possible. They'll also be looking at some of the positives, right? They looked at the unbanked population. This is an example of leapfrogging because of a lack of technical debt. When you have new countries build new infrastructure, you don't have to fix old infrastructure. You leapfrog in terms of your technology. So that's why a country like Israel has such a better water system than Mexico City that's been around for so many years. It's the reason why countries in Africa are developing 4G, 5G networks and they never had landlines. You can just skip over leapfrog because you don't have technical debt of having layers and layers of legacy technology. This is an example of that. You don't need a bank account. Nobody has a bank account in El Salvador, but you don't need one anymore. You can leapfrog developing a traditional financial system by just going straight to cryptocurrency, straight to wallets. Everybody has a smartphone. Nobody has a bank account. So just give everybody a wallet and then everybody can operate and have regular banking usage with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. Instant transactions. Certain companies will become established in El Salvador that offer banking-like products like checking accounts, savings accounts, lending, things like that in El Salvador as a result of Bitcoin. And so they're going to look at this as a case study to see how that rolls out. And my guess is they're going to apply this to a central bank digital currency in the United States. They know at this point they can outlaw stablecoins and it can be effective. They can outlaw many cryptocurrencies. It can be effective. Due to the network effects and the size of Bitcoin and now some of the money and interest that is now invested in Bitcoin, it'll be hard, if not impossible, to outright outlaw Bitcoin in the United States. And even if they do, the effectiveness of that will probably be very little. So instead, what I believe they're looking at this, if this bill gets pushed through, the data that they'll collect from this will be used not to outlaw Bitcoin. It will be used to outlaw most cryptocurrencies, and it will be used as justification for a central bank digital currency. Every negative that they're going to show happen in El Salvador as a result of adopting Bitcoin from the dollar they'll use to say, hey, we need to get rid of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin as much as possible in America. Every positive that comes out of it, the United States will say, hey, that is why we need a central bank digital currency. So that's what I think this is. This is a Trojan horse to outlaw and get rid of cryptocurrencies, limit the use of Bitcoin, and introduce a central bank digital currency in the United States. And just so you know, I wasn't making it up earlier, this is actually in the bill where it says a plan to mitigate risk to the United States financial system posed by adoption of cryptocurrency as legal tender in certain countries. And which countries are that, you might ask? Well, names El Salvador, and then it also says any other country that uses the United States dollar as legal tender. Again, they don't care about any of those other 7, 8 countries in the world that use the United States dollar as legal tender. The only one they care about is the United States. And so that's what I think this is. And we'll see what comes of this. But the United States government is watching and looking, and they're seeing. And El Salvador, like I've been saying for a while now, it's a case study. The rest of the world is also watching. They're saying, is El Salvador going to get attacked for this? Are they going to get very rich for this? Do they have a competitive advantage because of this? Are they drastically improving the lifestyle of their people with this? Is there a competitive advantage that we need to, as a different country, take ourselves and do the same thing before everybody else does? Is this something we need to stay away from? And so everybody in the world is watching El Salvador. It's been a little bit of time so far, still a little bit of time to go before anybody else probably makes any drastic decisions like they did. But I believe the reason the United States government is doing this is to give a reason to get rid of as many cryptocurrencies as possible in the US, limit the usage of Bitcoin as much as possible, even though they know that's probably not possible to the fullest extent. And then number 3, to implement a central bank digital currency and give justification for that. As always, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.